Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the trail map. The morning sun was getting hotter, and they had been walking for 3 hours already. Behind him, 4 people followed in a single line along the narrow mountain path. "How much further to the campsite?" asked Danny Carter, a 20-year-old college student who was breathing hard. His new hiking boots were already giving him blisters. "About 2 miles, Jake replied. He had been leading hiking groups through these Montana mountains for 5 years. Now before that, he spent 8 years in the Army Rangers. The wilderness felt more like home to him than any city ever could. Lisa Grant walked behind Danny, taking pictures of birds and plants with her camera. She worked as a wildlife biologist and knew more about forest animals than anyone Jake had ever met. She stopped every few minutes to examine something interesting. "Look at these tracks," Lisa said, kneeling beside the dirt path. "I've never seen anything like them before." Jake walked back to see what she found. The tracks were about the size of a human hand but had 6 fingers instead of 5. The marks were pressed deep into the soft earth, deeper than any human could make. "Probably just a bear print that got messed up by the rain," said Maria Santos, the park ranger who was helping Jake lead the group. She had worked in these mountains for 10 years and thought she had seen everything. "Bears don't have 6 toes," Lisa said, taking pictures of the strange tracks. Pete Collins, a 45-year-old electrician from Denver, laughed. "Maybe it's Bigfoot." He was on this trip to get away from city life for a few days. His wife, Amy Tucker, walked beside him. Carrying a heavy backpack full of camping gear, the group continued walking. Jake kept thinking about the tracks Lisa found. In all his years in these mountains, he had never seen anything like them. The prints were too perfect to be from any animal he knew. They reached their campsite just before noon. It was a small clearing surrounded by tall pine trees, with a stream running nearby. The spot was perfect for camping, far from any roads or other hikers. "This is beautiful," Amy said, dropping her backpack with relief. She worked as a nurse and didn't get many chances to be outdoors. Jake helped everyone set up their tents well. Maria gathered wood for a fire. The day passed quietly. They cooked dinner over the campfire and told stories as the sun went down behind the mountains. "Did anyone else hear that strange sound last night?" Lisa asked the next morning. They were eating breakfast and getting ready to continue their hike. "What kind of sound?" Jake asked. "Like a humming noise, but really low." It lasted for about 10 minutes around midnight. Danny nodded. "I heard it too. I thought it was just the wind." Jake felt worried but didn't say anything. Strange tracks, weird sounds. Something didn't feel right about this trip. High above the earth, a large ship moved silently through space. It was black and shaped like a triangle, with no lights showing on its surface. Inside the ship, 2 beings stood looking at screens that showed the human campsite below. Commander Vex was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His hands had 6 long fingers that ended in sharp claws. He wore dark armor that seemed to absorb light. "The prey looks weak," said Lieutenant Krell, who stood beside his commander. 5 adults, no weapons we can detect. This should be an easy hunt. Every species looks easy until you face them, Vex replied. But yes, these humans appear to be another simple collection. Add them to our trophy room when we're finished. The Zephyrians were hunters who traveled from planet to planet, looking for new species to hunt. They had been doing this for thousands of years, collecting specimens from hundreds of worlds. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever imagined. "Begin the hunt," Vex ordered. "Start with the standard protocol. Take 1 alive for study. Kill the rest for sport." Back at the campsite, the humans were packing their gear for another day of hiking. Jake was checking his compass when Danny suddenly screamed. Everyone turned to see Danny pointing at the sky. A bright light was moving between the trees, silent and fast. It stopped directly above their campsite and hovered there for several seconds. "What is that?" Maria whispered. Before anyone could answer, the light shot away and disappeared behind the mountains. The forest became completely quiet. Even the birds stopped singing. Jake felt his military training kick in. Something was very wrong. "Everyone stay close together," he said quietly. "Pack only what you need. We're leaving now." "But our stuff." Pete started to say, "Leave it," Jake said firmly. His voice had changed from friendly guide to military commander. "Move now." They hurried to gather their most important items. Lisa grabbed her camera and some food. Maria took her radio and first aid kit. Pete and Amy picked up water bottles and a small tent. As they were about to leave the clearing, Amy noticed something missing. "Where's Danny?" They all looked around. Danny Carter was nowhere to be seen. His backpack was still by his tent, but he had vanished completely. "Danny!" Lisa called out. "Danny, where are you?" No answer came from the forest. Jake found strange burn marks on the ground where Danny had been standing. The marks formed a perfect circle about 10 feet across. The grass inside the circle was completely gone, leaving only black earth behind. "We need to get out of here right now," Jake said. His hands were shaking as he picked up his rifle from his pack. "Something took Danny, and it might come back for us." The 4 remaining humans looked at each other with fear. They had come to the mountains for a peaceful camping trip. Now they were running for their lives from something they couldn't understand. As they hurried down the mountain trail, none of them noticed the small metal device that had been attached to a tree near their campsite. It was watching them, recording everything they did. The hunt had begun. Jake led the group down the mountain trail as fast as they could walk. Behind them, the empty campsite grew smaller until the trees hid it completely. Nobody spoke for the first hour. They were all thinking about Danny and what could have taken him. "We should call for help," Maria said, trying to use her park ranger radio. She pressed the buttons and spoke into it, but only static came back. "That's strange. This radio always works in these mountains." "Try your cell phone," Pete suggested. Maria checked her phone and shook her head. "No signal at all. Even the emergency channels are dead." Jake stopped walking and turned to face the group. "Listen carefully. Something is hunting us. I don't know what it is, but it has technology we've never seen before. It can block our communications and make people disappear without a trace." "You think it was aliens?" Amy asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know what it was," Jake replied, "but we need to assume it's still out there, and it's coming for us next." High above them, Commander Vex watched the humans through his ship's viewing screen. He was disappointed that one of his prey had escaped so easily from the collection beam, but the hunt was just beginning. "They're moving faster than expected," Lieutenant Krell observed. "Most species panic and scatter when we take the first specimen. These humans are staying together and moving with purpose." "Interesting," Vex said. "The one leading them seems to have some kind of training. Look how he positions himself to watch all directions while they move. Should we take another one?" Krell asked. "Not yet. Let them reach the valley first. I want to see how they behave when they're trapped." The Zephyrians had hunted on over 200 worlds. They knew the patterns that most intelligent species followed when faced with a superior predator. First came panic, then desperate running, and finally hopeless hiding until the hunt was over. Humans would be no different. Vex was certain. Jake found a good hiding spot behind some large rocks and gathered everyone together. "We need to make a plan," he said. "Whatever took Danny will probably come back for more of us." "Maybe we should split up," Pete suggested. "Make it harder for them to find us all." "No," Jake said firmly. "That's exactly what they want us to do. Predators always try to separate their prey. We stay together and we stay smart." Lisa was examining her camera, looking at the pictures she had taken. "Jake, look at this," she said, showing him the screen. "I took this photo right before Danny disappeared. The picture showed a dark shape moving between the trees. It was blurry, but Jake could see it had the same long arms and 6 fingers as the tracks they had found. "There's more than one of them," Lisa said, scrolling through her photos. "Look at this one from yesterday. Another dark shape in a different location." "They've been watching us since we arrived," Jake realized. "This wasn't random. They planned this." Maria was checking their supplies. "We have enough food and water for maybe 2 days if we're careful. After that, we'll have to risk going back to the main trail. 2 days might be all we need," Jake said. He was thinking like a soldier again, planning their defense instead of just running away. "These things have technology, but they don't know these mountains like we do." Amy looked confused. "What do you mean?" Jake smiled for the first time since Danny disappeared. "I mean, we're going to turn this hunt around. They think we're helpless prey, but they don't know what humans can do when we're cornered." He started drawing a map in the dirt with a stick. "Pete, you said you're an electrician, right? Do you know anything about building things?" "Sure, I can build almost anything if I have the right materials." "Good. Lisa, you know these forests better than anyone. What animals live here that we should know about?" "Bears, wolves, mountain lions," Lisa said. "But also smaller things like beavers, porcupines, and lots of birds." "Perfect. Maria, you know all the trails and hiding spots in this area?" "Every one of them," Maria confirmed. Jake's plan was starting to form in his mind. "Amy, you work in a hospital. You know how to stay calm under pressure and help people who are hurt." "Yes, but I don't understand what you're thinking." "I'm thinking that these aliens have never hunted humans before," Jake explained. "They don't know that we're not just another animal species. We can think, we can plan, and we can turn our environment into a weapon." Above them, Vex was growing impatient. "Deploy the hunting drones," he ordered. "I want to see how these humans react to direct pressure." 3 small flying machines dropped from the ship and headed toward the valley where the humans were hiding. Each drone was the size of a basketball and moved silently through the air. They were equipped with sensors that could track heat, movement, and sound. Jake heard them coming before he saw them. The drones made a very quiet humming sound, almost too low to notice. "Everyone get down and stay still," he whispered. The first drone appeared over the rocks where they were hiding. It hovered there for several seconds, scanning the area with a red light. Jake waited until the drone was directly overhead, then threw a large rock at it as hard as he could. The rock hit the drone and knocked it sideways, but didn't break it. The machine recovered quickly and flew away to rejoin the others. "Did you see that?" Jake asked excitedly. "It's not indestructible. We can fight these things." "But there are probably more of them," Maria pointed out. "Then we'll have to be smarter than they are," Jake replied. He was already planning their first trap. Pete found some old wire in his backpack, left over from a repair job. Amy had strong thread from her medical supplies. Lisa knew which plants had strong, flexible stems that could be woven together. "What are you making?" Lisa asked as Jake started tying the materials together. "A snare," Jake said. "If those drones come back, they're going to get a surprise." Commander Vex watched his drones return to the ship. "Report," he ordered. "The humans detected our approach and threw a projectile at Hunter Drone 1, Krell said. "They show better awareness than most prey species." "Interesting. They didn't run or hide. They fought back." Vex was beginning to think these humans might be more challenging than he first thought. "Should we proceed with standard elimination protocol?" "Not yet. I want to study them more. Send the drones back, but this time, try to capture one alive. I'm curious about their defensive capabilities." Back in the valley, Jake finished setting up his first trap. It was simple but effective, a snare made from wire and thread, hidden in the trees where the drones would fly. If his plan worked, the next alien machine that came looking for them would find itself tangled and helpless. "Now we wait, Jake." said. "And when they come back, we show them what happens when you try to hunt humans." The sun was setting behind the mountains. Soon it would be dark, and the real hunt would begin. The night was dark and quiet. Jake and his group waited behind the rocks, listening for any sound that might warn them the aliens were coming back. Nobody slept. They took turns watching the sky and the forest around them. At 3 in the morning, Lisa heard the low humming sound again. "They're back," she whispered. 3 drones appeared from different directions, moving slowly through the trees. This time they were being more careful, staying higher up and scanning the ground with bright lights. The first drone flew directly into Jake's wire trap. The thin wires caught around its spinning parts and tangled up its flight system. The machine made angry buzzing sounds as it crashed into a tree and fell to the ground. "It worked," Amy said quietly, but her excitement was cut short when the other 2 drones immediately changed direction and flew straight toward their hiding spot. "Run!" Jake shouted. The group scattered as red energy beams shot down from the drones, burning holes in the rocks where they had been hiding. The beams were hot enough to melt stone, and the smell of burning rock filled the air. Pete ran to the left while Amy went right. Maria and Lisa followed Jake deeper into the forest. The drones split up to chase different targets. Pete found himself alone, running through thick bushes with one drone following close behind. The machine kept shooting energy beams that barely missed his head. He was getting tired and knew he couldn't run much longer. Then he remembered the old electrical tower he had seen earlier. It was about 50 yards away, used to carry power lines across the valley. Pete was an electrician and knew exactly what to do. He ran straight toward the tower, with the drone following. At the last second, Pete dove to the side. The drone, moving too fast to change direction, flew directly into the high-voltage power lines. There was a bright flash and a loud crackling sound. The drone sparked and smoked before falling to the ground, completely destroyed. "One down," Pete said to himself, breathing hard. Meanwhile, Jake was leading Maria and Lisa through a part of the forest he knew well. The second drone was following them, but Jake had a plan. "This way," he said, leading them toward a steep hill covered with loose rocks. "When I say jump, both of you jump to the left and keep running." They reached the top of the hill. The drone was right behind them, charging up its energy weapon for another shot. "Jump!" Jake yelled. Maria and Lisa dove to the left just as Jake kicked a large boulder. The rock started rolling down the hill, and other rocks began rolling with it. Soon a whole avalanche of stones was tumbling down the slope. The drone tried to fly upward to escape, but Jake had thrown his jacket over it. The cloth covered the machine's sensors, making it fly blind. It crashed into the rolling rocks and was smashed to pieces. "2 down," Jake said with satisfaction. The third drone had been chasing Amy through the forest. She was running toward the stream, hoping the water might somehow help her escape. But the drone was faster and getting closer. Amy remembered something from her nursing training. In emergencies, you had to think quickly and use whatever was available. She picked up a handful of mud from the stream bank and turned to face the drone. When the machine flew at her, Amy threw the mud directly at its front sensors. The thick mud covered the drone's cameras and lights, making it unable to see. The confused machine flew in circles, trying to clean its sensors by flying through tree branches. Amy grabbed a heavy stick and waited. When the drone flew low enough, she swung the stick like a baseball bat and knocked the machine into the stream. The water short-circuited its electronics, and it sank to the bottom. 3 down, Amy said, surprised by her own success. On the alien ship, Commander Vex stared at his screens in disbelief. All 3 hunting drones had been destroyed in less than an hour. In hundreds of hunts across the galaxy, he had never seen prey species fight back so effectively. How did this happen? He demanded. Lieutenant Krill was studying the recorded data from the drones. The humans used their environment as a weapon, sir. One used electrical power lines, another caused a rock slide, and the third used mud and water. Impossible. These are primitive beings with no advanced technology. Yes, sir, but they seem to understand how to use simple tools and natural resources very effectively. Vex was angry, but also impressed. Deploy hunter teams 1 and 2. If the drones cannot handle these humans, we will hunt them ourselves. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider. These humans are proving more dangerous than expected. Nonsense, Vex replied. They destroyed some. Machines, nothing more. We are Zephians. We have never failed to complete a hunt. Back in the forest, the 4 humans met at their agreed meeting point near the stream. Everyone was tired, but excited about their victories over the drones. I can't believe we actually won, Amy said. This is just the beginning, Jake warned. Those were just machines. Now they'll send the real hunters. Lisa was examining the broken drone she had pulled from the stream. Look at this, she said, pointing to symbols carved into the metal. This is definitely not from Earth. We're fighting actual aliens, Maria said. A week ago, the most dangerous thing in these mountains was a bear. Jake was thinking about their next move. We need to split up, but not like before. We're going to set up a network of traps all through this valley. When the aliens come down to hunt us, they'll find that the hunted have become the hunters. Pete nodded. I can rig electrical traps using parts from the broken drones. I can create camouflaged pit traps, Maria added. I know exactly where. They'll be most effective. I can set up false trails and confusing scents to lead them into our traps, Lisa said. Amy looked uncertain. What can I do? I'm just a nurse. You're going to be our communication center, Jake explained. We need someone to coordinate everything and help anyone who gets hurt. That's just as important as setting traps. They spent the rest of the night planning their strategy. Instead of running away or hiding, they were going to turn the entire valley into a trap for their alien hunters. As the sun began to rise, Jake looked at his small team with pride. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting to show these aliens that humans are not easy prey. Far above them, 2 Zephyrian hunters prepared to descend to the planet's surface. They wore advanced armor and carried energy, weapons that could cut through solid rock. They had killed hundreds of different species and expected humans to be no different. They had no idea what they were walking into. The real battle was about to begin. 2 Zephyrian hunters stepped out of their transport pod and onto the forest floor. Hunter Prime Zach was the larger of the 2, with scars covering his gray skin from hundreds of successful hunts. His partner, Hunter Nex, was younger but equally deadly. Both aliens wore dark armor that could stop most weapons and carried energy rifles that could burn through metal. They moved silently through the trees, using their advanced sensors to track the humans. The prey destroyed our drones, Zach said, his voice a low growl. This shows they have some intelligence, but nothing we haven't seen before. The tracks indicate they split into 2 groups, Nex replied, studying his scanner. Should we divide our forces? No, we stay together and hunt them one group at a time. Humans are pack animals. When we kill some, the others will panic and make mistakes. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that Jake had been busy all night. He had turned the entire valley into a maze of connected traps, each one designed to lead the aliens toward the next one. Lisa had used her knowledge of animal behavior to create false trails using scent markers. She had crushed berries and herbs to make smell paths that would confuse the aliens. Tracking systems. Pete had rigged electrical traps using parts from the broken drones. He had connected wires to trees and rocks, creating invisible barriers that would shock anything that touched them. Maria had dug pit traps covered with branches and leaves. She had also set up falling log traps that would trigger when someone stepped on hidden ropes. Amy had created a communication system using mirrors and sunlight. She could send signals to the others without making any sound that the aliens might hear. The first trap was simple but effective. The aliens followed what they thought was a human trail, but Lisa had made it using deer scent mixed with soap from Amy's backpack. The trail led directly to one of Pete's electrical traps. Zack stepped on the hidden wire first. The shock was strong enough to knock him down, but his armor protected him from serious injury. However, the surprise made him angry. "Clever," he admitted, getting back to his feet, "but tricks will not save them." The aliens became more careful, but that was exactly what Jake wanted. Careful movement meant slow movement, and slow movement gave the humans more time to prepare. The second trap was one of Maria's pit traps, but with a twist. When Nex fell into the hole, he found that the bottom was filled with muddy water instead of sharp stakes. The water short-circuited his scanner and made his armor heavy and difficult to move in. "They're not trying to kill us," Nex realized as Zack helped pull him out of the pit. "They're trying to disable our equipment." "Impossible," Zack replied. "No prey species has ever been that strategic." But the humans were just getting started. Every few hundred yards, the aliens encountered another trap. Tripwires that triggered falling branches, hidden snares that caught their feet, loud noise makers that scared away all the animals and made the forest eerily quiet. The aliens began to realize they were not hunting anymore. They were being hunted. Jake watched the aliens from his hiding spot high in a tree. He could see that they were getting frustrated and making more mistakes. Their armor was muddy, their weapons were damaged, and they kept looking over their shoulders. He used Amy's mirror system to send a signal to the others. It was time for the final phase of his plan. Lisa appeared at the edge of a clearing, making sure the aliens could see her. When they started chasing her, she led them exactly where Jake wanted them to go. Maria triggered a series of traps that made loud noises from different directions. The aliens couldn't tell where the sounds were coming from or which way to run. Pete activated his most complex electrical trap. He had wired together parts from all three destroyed drones to create a powerful shocking net between the trees. Amy used her medical knowledge to create smoke signals with burning herbs that would irritate the aliens' sensitive eyes and noses. Zack and Nex found themselves in the center of a carefully planned nightmare. Every direction they turned led to another trap. Every step they took triggered something new. "This is not possible," Zack said, his voice now filled with something he had never felt before during a hunt: fear. "Sir, I recommend we retreat and call for backup," Nex suggested. "Zephyrians do not retreat," Zack roared, but his voice shook as he said it. Jake appeared on a hill above them, holding the broken parts of one of their drones. "Looking for this?" he called down to them. Both aliens raised their weapons to shoot him, but Jake was already gone, disappearing behind the rocks. "How did he move so fast?" Nex asked. "He didn't," came Lisa's voice from behind them. "We're everywhere." The aliens spun around, but Lisa had vanished too. "This is psychological warfare," Zack realized. "They're trying to make us afraid." "It's working," Nex admitted. Maria's voice came from the left. "You came here to hunt us like animals." Pete's voice came from the right. "But we're not animals, we're human." Amy's voice came from above, "And humans don't give up." Jake's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We adapt, we learn, we fight back." The aliens stood back to back in the center of the clearing, surrounded by voices but unable to see any of the humans. Their advanced technology couldn't help them against an enemy that used the forest itself as a weapon. "New plan," Zack said quietly. "We go back to the ship and bombard this entire area from orbit." "That would destroy the specimens," Nex pointed out. "Better than becoming specimens ourselves," Zack replied. They started moving toward their landing site, but even that simple task became a challenge. Every trail led to another trap. Every shortcut was blocked by fallen trees. Every clear path was filled with hidden snares. The aliens who had come to hunt humans were now running for their lives, jumping at every sound and flinching at every. Shadow. Jake watched them from his final ambush point. His trap was ready, and the aliens were walking directly into it. But unlike the other traps, this one was designed to capture, not to harm. It was time to have a conversation with their would-be hunters. The war between species was about to end, but not in the way anyone expected. Zack and Nex walked carefully toward their landing site, checking every step for more traps. They had been running through the forest for hours, and their confidence was completely broken. These humans had turned what should have been a simple hunt into the worst nightmare of their lives. Almost there, Zack whispered to his partner. Once we reach the transport pod, we can call for backup and destroy this entire valley. They pushed through a thick group of bushes and found themselves in a small clearing. In the center of the clearing sat their transport pod, exactly where they had left it. But something was wrong. The pod was surrounded by a perfect circle of ropes and wires. Every tree around the clearing had been connected to every other tree, with thin lines that were almost invisible. Above their heads, a network of cables formed a dome that completely covered the landing site. "It's a cage," Nex said with horror. Jake Morrison stepped out from behind a large tree, holding the end of a rope in his hands. One pull on that rope would bring the entire trap crashing down, crushing the aliens' only way home. "Going somewhere?" Jake asked calmly. The two aliens raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Lisa appeared behind another tree with her own rope. Then Maria stepped out from the left and Pete from the right. Amy came out from behind the transport pod itself. All 5 humans held ropes that controlled different parts of the trap. If the aliens tried to shoot any one of them, the others would collapse the entire structure. "Clever," Zack admitted. "But you cannot hold us forever. Our ship will send more hunters when we don't return." "Will they?" Jake asked. "Or will they think twice when they hear what happened here?" Commander Vex was indeed wondering what had happened to his hunters. Their communication signals had stopped hours ago, and their tracking devices showed they were moving in circles through the forest. "Send Hunter Team 3, he ordered Lieutenant Krell. "Sir, perhaps we should consider that these humans might be more dangerous than we thought." "Impossible. No primitive species has ever defeated Zephyrian hunters." But even as he said it, Vex was beginning to have doubts. Back in the forest, Jake was having a conversation with the trapped aliens that neither species would ever forget. "Why do you hunt other species?" Jake asked. "Because we are Zephyrians," Zack replied proudly. "We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. It is our nature." "And what do you do with the species you hunt?" "We take trophies, we study them. Then we move on to the next world." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "So you travel from planet to planet, taking the best specimens from each species. But you never learn anything about who they really are." "We learn everything we need to know," Nex said. "Defensively, do you?" Lisa asked. "Did you learn that humans work together to solve problems? Did you learn that we can turn any environment into a weapon?" Maria added. "Did you learn that we never give up when our families are threatened?" Pete said. "Did you learn that we get stronger when we're challenged instead of weaker?" Amy asked. The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. In all their hunts across hundreds of worlds, they had never been asked questions like these. Jake stepped closer to the aliens, but kept his hand on the rope. "You want to know what makes humans special? It's not our strength or our technology. It's that we refuse to be victims. You came here thinking we were just another animal species to collect," Lisa continued. "But we're not animals, we're people. We have names and families and dreams." "The young man you took first," Maria said, her voice sad but strong. "His name was Danny Carter. He was 20 years old. He wanted to be a teacher. He had a girlfriend back home who's probably worried sick about him," Amy added. "You didn't just take a specimen. You took someone's son, someone's love. For the first time in his long hunting career, Zack began to understand what they had been doing to other species. They hadn't been collecting specimens. They had been destroying families. But you are still just humans, Nex said, though his voice lacked conviction. Your technology is primitive. Your lifespans are short. You have no natural weapons or armor. Jake smiled. You're right. We're soft and weak, and we don't live very long. But you know what we do have? What? Zack asked, genuinely curious now. We have imagination, Jake said. We can look at a forest and see a fortress. We can look at simple materials and see complex machines. We can look at a hopeless situation and see a way to win. Most importantly, Lisa added, we can look at an enemy and see a potential friend. The alien stared at her in confusion. What do you mean? We could kill you right now, Jake explained. This trap would crush you both, and then we could take your weapons and your ship. But we're not going to do that. Why not? Zack asked. Because killing you won't bring Danny back, Amy said. And because we want you to go back to your people and tell them about us. Jake pulled out a small device he had taken from one of the broken drones. This is a recording device, isn't it? It's been running this whole time, Nex nodded reluctantly. Good. Then your commander will see exactly what happened here. He'll see that humans aren't helpless prey. He'll see that we can think and plan and fight back. More importantly, Maria added, he'll see that we chose mercy over revenge. Jake began loosening the ropes that held the trap together. You're free to go. Take your device, take your recordings, and take a message back to your people. What? Message? Zack asked, not moving toward his transport pod. Tell them that Earth is not a hunting ground, Jake said firmly. Tell them that humans are not trophies to be collected. Tell them that if they come here looking for easy prey, they'll find themselves becoming the hunted instead. The aliens walked slowly toward their transport pod, looking back at the humans with something like respect in their large black eyes. Why are you sparing us? Zack asked one final time. Because, Jake replied, showing mercy to an enemy takes more strength than killing them. And we want your people to understand exactly how strong humans can be. The transport pod lifted off silently and disappeared into the sky. Within an hour, it had docked with the main Zephyrian ship. Commander Vex watched the recording of everything that had happened in the forest below. He saw his advanced hunters trapped and defeated by beings with primitive tools and simple materials. He saw humans working together with a coordination that even his own species rarely achieved. Most importantly, he saw them choose to spare his hunters when they could have easily killed them. Set course for the next system, Vex ordered quietly. Sir? Lieutenant Krell asked in surprise. What about the hunt? The hunt is over, Vex replied. Mark this world as protected space. Any Zephyrian who comes here will answer to me personally. But sir, our reputation will be that we are wise enough to recognize a superior species when we encounter one, Vex said. These humans have taught us something we never learned in all our hunts across the galaxy. What's that, sir? True strength isn't about having the best weapons or the most advanced technology. True strength is knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. These humans have both. Back on Earth, Jake and his team made their way back to civilization. They agreed never to tell anyone what had really happened in the mountains. Danny Carter would be listed as missing, presumed lost in the wilderness, but they all knew the truth. Humanity had passed its first test with an alien species, and they had passed it not through violence or superior technology, but through courage, creativity, and wisdom. The galaxy was a big place, full of species both friendly and hostile. But now at least one alien race knew that humans were not to be underestimated. And somewhere in space, on a Zephyrian ship headed far from Earth, two alien hunters sat quietly in their quarters, still trying to understand how the hunted had become the hunters, and how Mercy had proven stronger than any weapon they had ever seen.